Hi, it's Simon. Recently, I met up with Hasan Kubba, the co-author of The Unfair Advantage, in central London to share some ideas on productivity and business and learn more about how he launched a major book on levelling up your contribution, as well as some powerful ideas on how we can all be better leveraging our unfair advantages. So today, I'm sharing our impromptu interview in West London that was captured entirely on the Insta360 X3 camera. Pretty cool, you might enjoy how that worked. And a pair of these wireless Go mics. So how about that for a kind of portable podcasting studio? Yeah. So in this slightly longer episode, we talk creative process, productive creativity, and even a bit on the power or threat of AI. And thank you to the best book summary service I know, Shortform, for sponsoring this episode. So Hasan Kubba co-authored one of my favourite self-development books of the last year with Ash Ali. He is a startup entrepreneur who built a successful startup from his bedroom, and he seemed to do it with little more than an online course and a yearning to change his work life. He has now spoken at TEDx and advised and mentored hundreds of startups all over the world, so there's loads of amazing stuff in here that we can all learn from. He is also passionate about spreading the opportunities of startup entrepreneurship, and what I think is really cool is he's growing as a content creator and creative voice in his own right. We had some great chats about that too. So grab a brew and settle in for a super stimulating and inspiring chat with Hasan Kubba, co-author of The Unfair Advantage. Hi, Hasan, how you doing? I made it. Do you want me to sign in first? I've got to sign in first.
Quiet area.
Amazing.
Like, hang out, whatever. It's kind of improved. New work used to be a lot more sterile.
Yeah.
You get much more to it.
Great. Yeah, I'm impressed by their furniture.
This is where it feels really weird now to suddenly start talking to each other, isn't it?
No, I'm alright. I actually done loads. We could just jump straight in.
Yeah, no, right. You were going to tell me about how you started writing a book.
That's right.
What on earth?
We were talking about creative processes, how you have a creative job, and how you can really build up to doing something that you had no idea that you could do, let's say. So for me, that was writing a book. I was never great at writing. I was a big reader. Maybe that helped, but I never wrote much. I think I've subconsciously always wanted to be an expert in something and to eventually write a book. Well, I always imagined it would be like in my 50s or something. So I never thought I'd get a publishing deal in my 20s. I had some success in the online business world.
Yeah.
And I met Ash Ali, who had success in the tech startup world. And those are slightly different worlds. And I learned about the tech startup world from Ash. He was investing in some startups as an angel investor. I was at a loose end because my business was running itself. I was making a passive income. And we both lived in Northwest London. So I drove over to his office, and all these startup founders were pitching him about trying to get funding for their startups. And so I just sat in on those meetings, and eventually I started to give my thoughts and analysis, and I became his investment partner ultimately. And it was based on that experience of like dozens, if not hundreds of startup founders pitching us. We started to create a thesis of who we thought, an investment thesis is what they call it, of who we thought would succeed and who wouldn't, and why. We noticed that the people from kind of more diverse backgrounds, more the underrepresented startup founders, actually were at a huge disadvantage. And we started to think, okay, how could we break it to them that them just working hard or having a nice idea isn't enough, and they need more than that. They need the right connections, they need the right financing, they need the technical support as well, like a co-founder who was like a technical person who can actually build an app or a website or something. These was tech startups. And so we thought we'd write a book and we just self-publish it. And that was the idea. We're just going to, we'll write something. We actually applied startup thinking to our book. We did a minimum viable product.
Yeah.
So we did a 1 hour version of the book. So like 10,000 words, a 1 hour read. We ordered a few author copies and we gave it out to a few friends to just get some feedback before we launched it. And then we were going to publish. And on the day we were going to publish that lean version, we called it, of the book. A literary agent got in touch with us and said, please don't publish.
On the day you were going to... How did they find out?
Literally on the day that we were going to publish that day, we were just adding some to our tiny little... So we hadn't built audiences. We hadn't shared much of our success or advice or stuff like that. It was just we're quite private. So we just had a few friends and family on Instagram. And we were just sharing that we're going to release our book. So she knew from that we were releasing. We met her through another author. We got to know.
Right.
And it was literally like a Hollywood moment. Literally the day, this isn't an exaggeration, on the day we were going to hit publish on Amazon, and Ash was telling me, come on, let's hit publish, let's put this out there. She got in touch to say, let's see if we can get you a publishing deal. And we were very skeptical. We thought, okay, we're not academics, we're not celebrities. We're not going to get a book deal. Like, how is this going to happen? So we met a random Turkish restaurant that was near Ash, where Ash lived. And she said, give me 3 months. Let me, shop it around to publishers and see if there's any interest. And we said to her, we'll give you 3 weeks. Let's see what you can do. And in those 3 weeks, we got 3 publishing deals, which is incredible. And we did not expect it. And it was actually, they started to bid for who can publish the book. And they liked that it was a refreshingly new idea, etc. So
I think that's probably what I love most about the book, actually. Perhaps why I was so interested in what you're doing. I think it's hard to talk to people at the beginning of a journey when you've been on a long one.
Yeah.
But also, there just aren't that many people that have the combination of skills to be able to find a way to speak to people or just want to record themselves or write things down and share it. And have access to the information.
Yep.
There are people like, and I'll never get this right, Alex Hormozy.
Yeah.
He's really interesting because he's actually going, I just want this information to be free for everyone.
Yeah, exactly.
Where do you stand on that?
No, I really agree. I think that I wish all the big business titans and the business gurus, and not just the big ones, the ones who also have nice lifestyle design, let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Like who have good work, not just the ones who have the biggest companies with the most employees, with the biggest market capitalization on the stock market or whatever, but the ones who also, have built businesses that are fulfilling to them and they have a good balance, and then they have a few employees and they love their life and they love their lifestyle. Because I built my business more from the lifestyle angle.
Yeah.
I made a passive income for myself, which was incredible. So I think I wish those people would teach others how they did it. Most of them are just living their lives busy with the day-to-day of their businesses and their life.
Yeah.
And I think there are some people who have the passion to teach, and there are some people who want to share.
Yeah.
And I think it's especially true that for people for whom it didn't come naturally to them are more likely to teach it, because the people who it came naturally to them, they can't even relate to beginners. They're just like, what's the matter with you? Just get started. They have that kind of feeling to them. Whereas for me, it didn't come naturally. I took an online course to learn how to start a business in the first place about 10 years ago.
I remember reading about that.
Yeah.
And going, is this a scam? No, it's working.
It worked. Yeah. Because I was thinking people told me, this is a scam. And I was like, no, actually, I think it might. I could probably make it work, and they gave me the fire inside me to prove them wrong.
Yeah.
So yeah, I wish others would teach it, but not the best practitioners are necessarily the best teachers, and this is the big thing that people get wrong. Like the best teachers are not necessarily the best practitioners, and the best practitioners are not necessarily the best teachers, and that's just how it is. Like the best football manager in the world, probably Alex Ferguson. He wasn't the best football player in the world, right? And it's not necessarily Messi is going to be the best manager, or Cristiano Ronaldo is going to be the best manager, whatever. Like that's just not how life works.
We're going to take a quick break from this interview so I can introduce you to today's sponsor, Shortform, the very tool I use to recap the unfair advantage before meeting with Hasan. Shortform, in my opinion, is the world's best non-fiction book summary tool, and I've tried a few of them. This is the one I stuck with. In fact, it's more than that. You can think of it more like a companion tool to help you get the most from books in more depth and with more ease due to the great set of additional notes and interactive exercises that the team create for each book. It's really cool. The app is not intended as a replacement for reading books, of course, but I've loved using it to read a condensed view of a book, so I have a better understanding and an overview of it before I choose to read it in full. I've also found Shortform to be a great way to recap the key ideas from a book I read a while ago, like I'm doing right here, preparing for the chat with Hasan on The Unfair Advantage. There's always a one-pager covering the main ideas as a whole, and then chapter-by-chapter summaries in detail, and they also build on those ideas with interactive reflections and exercises to engage deeper. Plus, if the author is saying something bold in one direction, like Grant Cardone here on goal setting, they will also offer short form notes to reveal those alternative viewpoints or different perspectives that you can consider, so you aren't just reading in a bubble. I love this app, I use it every week, so give it a try for free and deepen your understanding on subjects like productivity, creativity and entrepreneurship. Shortform have given us this special link which gives you 5 days unlimited access and a 20% discount on the annual subscription when joining. That's essentially 2.5 months free. So thank you very much Shortform for sponsoring this episode. Let's get back to the interview.
Why did you want to write the book? Like, what was your main reason to write that book?
So the main reason for me is because I read loads of self-development books when I was younger, and they were all about, like, if you just work hard enough.
Get your motivation.
Yeah. If you just work hard enough, if you apply these strategies, you too will succeed.
5 steps. 5 steps to success.
And that's the thing. And I really bought into that. But I started noticing that smart people aren't big fans of self-help and self-development. And I was thinking, why is that? Like, why is it that kind of the smartest people you talk to are kind of, don't say you can do anything you know, whatever you can perceive you can achieve, that kind of thing, or conceive you can achieve. And it's because they had a more realistic view of like obstacles, of inequalities, of differences of opportunities. And so I thought what I wanted is that dose of reality.
I completely agree.
Yeah.
Realism and a sense of like, it's just real humans doing, as opposed, I think that's true, isn't it? I get really nervous about that, accidentally becoming a productivity YouTuber and making products for people that you're going, I know I'm not trying to scam people. I'm genuinely trying to offer them, by me talking about it and sharing it or making it, I'm learning about it. If I can help that person understand what they're doing better than I can, I will understand it better as well. And that process of breaking something down.
Exactly.
But I totally hear you about the realism thing.
And it's not just the case of self-help books. All business books are the same. They all assume everybody's starting from the same starting line. And we so aren't. Most businesses are like family businesses, or from the bank of mom and dad, or from a rich uncle who helped get started, or from working in industry for so long and seeing something there and then starting. The overwhelming narrative about it, just about, waking up super early and, affirming your goals into the mirror and doing your meditations and having a cold shower and all that kind of stuff is enough. It's just not. But I think it's kind of like work smart versus work hard. If you work hard, it's almost like running really fast, but you could be running in the wrong direction. And you kind of have to have that strategy, that working smart aspect to it as well. So I think that's the key for me. And I think both are important. I think some people go too far on the working smart side and really, like, if you're not working hard, you need to actually work hard too. So it's that thing.
Yeah, the last 2 years for me have been really fascinating because 2.5 years or so, I've kind of had to, working in a very collaborative in-person world of theatre making. I think I was caught in the work hard cycle a little bit because you can often be chasing the next job. It's not the most well-paid thing, but it's a place to be passionate. And when you get the right job, it's great. But the whole lockdown COVID experience was terrible on so many levels. Some of the unforeseen benefits that I didn't anticipate was that fact that I went, slow down. Enforced kind of stopping. Completely changed everything for me. Because I think I then had to go, okay, so I'm going to have to earn some money somehow. There are very few ways to do it. And right now I literally just have to sit here and think about my life, which I kind of set myself up to do just before everything happened. Because I started trying to read self-help books. For me, that's been a thing I'm not into it. And I think something about kind of realizing I could approach things differently and having really practical questions about how might I make myself more time, make money work for me a bit more, not just trade my time for money and be able to offer the kind of things I'm doing in a slightly more strategic way, then suddenly opened up how to look for the kind of self-help books that actually worked for me. And I think that's why I was so drawn to yours, because it does feel so, like you say, it's got realism, practicality. It feels like you're just going, this is what we've realized, and it's a really useful formula to start. It's person focused,
it's I'm glad you said that, because that was our goal. I mean, we very deliberately designed it that way. I mean, we also get the feedback that it's a page turner, that people get really involved in it. I'm like, great, because that's what I was hoping for, even though I don't have much experience in writing, and that's what we were going for, is something easy to read, not filled with jargon, not like typical business books it's so weird, and the boardroom type speak, the C-level executive types, and it just feels very unrelatable. I wanted something relatable, and I wanted something tailored, so that the advice is sort of a tailor-made advice to whoever's reading it, as opposed to one size fits all, this is what everybody should do. It's more like, define what your goal is, understand yourself and your personality, understand what your inner and outer strengths are, your unfair advantages, not just your talents and your strengths, which is very important to identify, but also the external things of who you know, where you live. All of that comes together to make success, which is this emergent property. It isn't just a simple equation of do this plus this, which is what self-help books say. Do this plus this equals success. Whereas actually it's an emergent quality of all these different factors that kind of work together.
I think a lot of people can find, I get the concept, but where do I start? What?
Yes.
It kind of speaks to both things, right? You going, okay, how do I write this down in a book?
Yes.
And how do I structure that?
Yeah.
Did you kind of have a really clear sense of the process that had worked for you to work out yours, or were you working it out as you wrote it?
Finding my own unfair advantages isn't, some people when they write a business books, they'll be like, here's how I succeeded.
Yeah.
I literally did this, this, and this. And really, it's not quite how, it's a nice, neat story.
Yeah.
Reality is much more complicated, and ideas don't come in one eureka moment, that kind of thing. I think I had identified slowly my own unfair advantages. I didn't go through this. I didn't know the Miles framework before I wrote the Miles framework. It was something we developed. So basically, when people say, how long did it take you to write the book? About 3.5 years. But really, the actual writing was about 6 months, if that, because it was like 3 years of just developing the concept.
Yeah.
And I think people don't spend it long enough. And this applies to any piece of content. The idea of the video, the play, the book, the film is more important than any specifics. Like, you have to nail the concept. It's all about nailing the concept first. I think to get the concept right and to get the model right and to get stress test it and actually see if it's useful is what took us 3 years. And then after that, it was just writing it all down. So yeah, it took a long time to structure it and develop it. And that's what the 3 years was for. It was for figuring out this Miles framework, figuring out what an unfair advantage is, what isn't an unfair advantage. For example, some people say, my unfair advantage is I work damn hard. I have amazing work ethic. And what we decided is that isn't an unfair advantage, that's a fair one, because we can all work hard, We
all have access to that, don't we?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's not something that... So it was like developing that kind of philosophical framework to underlay what the model is what took a while. But that's why we make it easier for the reader. We say, okay, part 2. So part 1 of the book is Life is Unfair. Part 2 of the book is Audit Your Unfair Advantages. And here's how you start. Figure out, know thyself, figure out your personality type, just get an idea, do some introspection, ask people you've lived with, you've traveled with, to get to know yourself. It takes time. And then start with money, intelligence and insight, location and luck, education, expertise, status. Just go through it one by one and just ask yourself. It's not such a formal process. Some people think it's so formal. It's really more about introspecting and asking yourself, where am I good? Where in the past have I been able to leverage something to succeed? What do people compliment me on? What comes easily to me that other people find difficult? Well, probably I take it for granted. And that's the kind of stuff that's your unfair advantages. Then part 3 is how to get started with a project or a business or a startup. It's just how do you get started with an idea or something? And it's just like a quick start guide. So that's the basic concept of the book.
It's one of the hardest things to do, I think, to say what you're good at. So I've spent a lot of time lecturing.
Okay.
When I nearly gave up working in the theatre because I can't take this, the pressure and the stress of all of this stuff, all this freelancing. I kind of went part-time into lecturing theatre students.
Nice.
And I did this whole thing called, this whole module. I wrote a module. I was very proud of myself.
Okay.
It's a similar thing. And I suppose actually when you think about it, it's not that different. I can't write a module. And then you break it down and go, okay, what's the form? What's the content?
Yeah.
What's the key idea what's problem we're trying to solve? It's all those kind of things.
Yeah.
But I think the hardest thing that I'd find students would struggle with is what I'm good at. I had this 12 ellipses statements, which you do in 5. It's like a journaling exercise that you do in 5 minutes, and you just go, and you answer that every day or whenever you feel want to do it. There's things like I collaborate with.
Okay.
My superpowers are I'm good at.
Nice.
Something I want help with right now is that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. So difficult.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. People struggle with it. I struggled with it. I didn't realize that. Well, people asked me what were your unfair advantages, and for me, I think it was like communication. I think the reason I was able to start my business and get clients is because I was able to communicate with them very clearly, explain to them all this digital marketing stuff, which they never understood because they were just traditional business owners, and explain to them what SEO is, not use jargon, not befuddle them or bamboozle them, and also build trust. And I think that's how I got clients. Really, the irony is that I struggle to get started. I'm a perfectionist. I never really realized I'm a creative type until I started to introspect much later in my life. I think I thought I was like a sciencey, maths, nerd, technical type of person, except I'm actually not.
Incredibly creative though, that world as well. It's just not looked at in that way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But I thought I was just much more mechanical and methodical as a person in general.
Right.
And it turned out, no, actually I'm very angsty about creating stuff. I have a lot of, procrastination. I have a lot of perfectionism. I have a lot of these kinds of things. And that definitely held me back. As Stephen Pressfield calls it, the resistance in The War of Art.
Yeah.
I had a lot of that starting out. And I used to read that book and reread it. And reality is I I couldn't get myself to launch my own website because I wanted the copy to be perfect. I wanted the structure of the website to be perfect. And what I was doing at that stage is helping other people build their websites, doing a website, development company. And eventually I kind of gave up on it, and then I just got some jobs for a while. I got a job here and there, sales jobs, 2 months here, 2 months there. And then when I finally did launch, I got my first client without having a website. So that's the irony. I was a web development agency without a website. And it was fine.
Yeah.
No one cared. It didn't matter as long as I can build their website for them.
Your own insecurities, you kind of project onto everyone else. That you go, and actually, they're not thinking about that at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the key. I think the key is that my clarity of communication, which I think is what helped with the book.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, what helps with me when I give talks now or do some content creation and go on podcasts. So, but it took me until my late 20s to even realize that was a strength of mine. Like, I was like 28 before I was like, oh, I think I should double down on this.
Yeah.
It took ages for me to figure it out.
So, like, being a creator then, because you're kind of calling yourself a creator now.
Yeah.
Hassan.
Well, I'm just trying to think of myself that way. Yeah, absolutely.
What are the scary things in front of you for that? I mean, you may now have this. It seems like you're kind of like, yeah, I don't understand that yet, but I'll work it out. But like,
yeah, I think
what is it you want?
Well, at first I was kind of scared about the whole production stuff of video and like, I don't know how to edit video. I don't know how to create video. I need somebody else to help me. And well, I started to become a business coach, and I started to have more confidence to invest into this new business space of building my own personal brand. So I was able to get an editor and stuff like that. So that was fine. I dealt with that. But I think what didn't work for me is one of my big coaching clients is Ali Abdal. His advice is consistency and quantity is going to build your quality.
Yeah.
And I think it's brilliant advice. But it just didn't quite work for me because of my own angst and procrastination, all of that stuff. It's working a little bit for like doing LinkedIn posts, tweeting. Right now, I'm kind of getting some more momentum with that. Well, it just hasn't worked for me for video. Maybe it will in the future. But I think what works better for me is actually the whole quality approach versus quantity. Because that's how I wrote the book, is just to focus on quality. It's not like I wrote loads of books. It was just like the first book I wrote, you only get one shot when you have a publishing deal. You can't like put out a draft and then update it. It doesn't work that way. So I think that's the approach I'm going to take with creation.
Yeah.
Is just to do in-depth, long-form video. So keep an eye out for stuff that I put out on YouTube.
I think that's really interesting.
Yeah.
What you were saying about Ali's quantity over quality.
Yeah.
You could argue what you're describing is still kind of the same process. When I'm making a theatre show, it's iterative. So it's
right.
We work in layers.
That's true.
So you go, yeah, we're gonna make stuff fast, but there's only ever one product at the end. But when I started thinking of the theatre making as not like wait, get it perfect, which I see so many people do, and then you have nothing.
Right.
You go, we're gonna just build this bit, then we're gonna build that bit, then we're gonna build that bit, and then we're gonna go back. Well, I'm doing it with my videos, and Ali is saying just make stuff quickly and you get better. It's just how you break a process down. So maybe you are doing quality, but it does sound like you're doing it in layers. You're building up to complexity.
You're right. It's not mutually exclusive. It's like, do you focus on quantity or do you focus on quality?
Yeah.
Quantity is super important for habit building and getting into the habit of it, and just to get into that flow of this is my life now. I'm now a creator.
Yeah.
But I think also Mr. Beast says the opposite thing. Mr. Beast is like, it's all about quality. Like, don't work, and it's all about the concept, which is something I touched on earlier.
The idea.
It's all about the video idea. It's all about the title and thumbnail. And that's what it's all about, because you have to really, really focus on that. And once you nail that, okay, then it's about retention and making the quality of it. His thing is like the concept, and then obviously the retention with how engaging is it as a video. Overall, that's all quality. That's all just like, it's not about just putting loads of videos out.
And you learn to make that quality through repetition as well, right?
It's not mutually exclusive.
Yeah.
But I think that approach just works better for me. I think Mr. Beast says something like, it's easier to get 10 million views on one video, than it is to get 10 million views spread across 20 videos. It's much easier to actually just reel one idea like that, huge. So I think that is kind of, you have to kind of know thyself. This comes back to know thyself. What are you good at? Some people are just better at tweeting because they're just really good at just like really pithy one-liners or little hot takes or something.
Yeah.
I'm not yet quite good at that. I'm working on that skill. I think I'm better at longer form stuff, and you just kind of have to figure it out. Some people are better with written form, some people are better videos, some people are better on podcasts, some people. So you just have to figure out what it is you enjoy, and that's just from the creation space.
And just try it all a bit as well, right?
Yeah.
I would love to turn I think so much of my video content would really translate beautifully and probably better into Twitter threads.
Interesting.
But I just can't bring myself to do it. I don't know why. There's something about the platform that I don't know, maybe I have this relationship to, it feels like if I say yes to just starting to write threads, I've made myself a load of extra work.
Yeah.
And I think that was something I'd love to chat to you about more, is like building a team as well, or just having help.
Because that's quite a simple task for somebody to, you can get ChatGPT to do it.
Yeah, that's weird, isn't it? Now
You can copy and paste the whole transcript of the video,
turn this into a Twitter thread.
and ask it to turn it into a Twitter thread.
I'm going to try that.
Do it, and then I'm sure you'll need to edit it a bit, clean it up a bit, but
It's quite scary, that, actually.
Yeah,
How do you feel about I've been making lots of content about AI.
maybe I'm naive, but maybe I'm just like wishful thinking.
Yeah.
I don't think it'll replace creators, but I don't know. It's kind of outside our control, right? The technological progress. Just do what we do. Ultimately, I don't see it replacing, or, people will lose their jobs. I think it's like, it can't really, I don't know. It's crazy. It's hard to think of. Well, I've been keeping an eye on AI for a while now.
If you use it, I think if we use it in the right way and get it to help us in what we're doing, it can save you a lot of time. It's like an assistant, isn't it?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I'm going to turn this off because I think it's probably going to give up in a minute.
Okay.
But like,
This has been fun.
yeah, thanks. We've turned it into a little interview.
I know.
Cheers.
Cheers.
So when we finished the recording, we also discussed the power of coaching and how Hasan works as a consultant to help people focus their work and leverage their own advantages. Maybe I'll get back in touch with him soon to continue that chat. Either way, what a great guy he is. Make sure to grab a copy of The Unfair Advantage in the links below. I truly have found it a super valuable book in my life and work. Well, if you're still here, thank you for watching this first attempt at an impromptu interview. Let me know what you make of it in the comments. Make sure to subscribe here too if you haven't. And if you enjoyed this, check out this one next for my favourite simple ideas that can transform your productivity, or this one for more on what I've learned about building a successful business from nothing to 6 figures in the last few years. Thanks. I'll see you soon.